what products you buy. Um, like everything you do is political. It's just not. It's just like to what degree, like why is it political to you? Like there was a time when people say buy American. I buy American. Buying American
That's a
used to
little tricky.
buying American used to mean something in the 70s and the 80s because so much like auto manufacturing, domestic auto sales were being overtaken by Japanese car companies, and that was like American auto manufacturing was such a big thing and such a big part of our economy. But I mean, as an economy matures and grows, domestic production of certain goods and services just yeah, moves over to someplace else.
Yeah, cars for one.
Yeah, but then it reversed itself because Toyota and Honda and Nissan opened up factories here in America and automated those factories and hired American workers to make those cars here. So believe it or not, I mean, and that's what a lot of these big manufacturers do. Like Ford has car factories in the UK where they basically make Ford cars in the UK, but they're staffed by people in the UK. A lot of the materials to make those cars are sourced in the UK. So like when people are like, "Yeah, keep my politics," everything has politics involved with it. Your movies have politics involved with it. You like Michael Bay? You know how Michael Bay always has this thing where he basically all his films show the government as being wildly incompetent, and that having people going against orders and there's no repercussions.
Right. I strongly dislike that sort of attitude, especially I don't know if you ever seen this anime, The Legend of Galactic Heroes.
I've heard of it. I heard that it's kind of like the Harlock saga, but instead of focusing on like a small group of characters, it's like a whole cast, like a whole bunch
Yep,
of
it's
characters and
a
stuff.
it's a big epic of political intrigue, but no, they always keep it fair where they show people on the ground floor like air troops, ground troops, and admirals and politicians. They've all got a stake in this. Shows them in an unbiased light. Well, yeah, and I've never liked that whole American depiction of where only the troops are the people with brains. Only the people putting in the muscle win wars, and everything else is just, as I said, just a bunch of fireworks.
Yeah, well, the thing that people like Michael Bay and directors like him who make these propaganda-based U.S. films, like I know Ambulance, Michael Bay's latest film comes out, and he has this. I mean, the film is totally unrealistic because he has this U.S. vet who, oh man, my insurance isn't going to cover this. I'm like, let me explain something to you, okay? If you are a vet who had an honorable discharge in America, okay, a vet who had an honorable discharge is allowed to keep their government mandated insurance. And one of the few parts of the American social system where you have really good fucking insurance is if you're a government worker. Okay? If you're a government worker, or you work for the Senate, or you're a military veteran, you have access to some of the best health insurance in America. It's still not the best in the world, but it's still really fucking good. So the fact that, like, in the opening of the latest Michael Bay film, Michael Bay, this character played by Yahya Abdul Mateen's like, yeah, my wife needs a $237,000 operation, my insurance won't cover it. I'm like, that's kind of weird. You're supposed to be a military vet and your insurance doesn't cover it because but I mean, once again, it's Michael Bay doing uh, his obvious BS digs against the government without actually understanding, like, without doing any type of due diligence on what that actually entails. Um, but anyway, so what else have you guys been doing this week?
Eh, besides that, can't say much else. Guess after this cast, I'll go ahead and give SMT5 some time because at the time I'm doing a double shift since I have two jobs. By the end of this month, I'll be down to one, which will free up my time for fun considerably.
All right, all right, got your hustle on. That's a good thing.
Yep.
Um, Joel, you watched anything lately you were interested in? Any good movies, TV shows?
Eh, I've been looking through Netflix a little bit, and kind of it's kind of a little hard to get any good recommendations. But I did see Cuphead, so that's at least a
Nice.
bonus.
Yeah, Netflix is very ebb and flowish. Like there used to be a time where like you could go on Netflix anytime, find something good. Now Netflix is like,
Right.
it's a
And
little
For
dry.
the Ghost Town,
for their animation, I've been pretty satisfied, but I do understand some really upset opinions about their how they acquisition anime and just kind of hold it hostage for American viewers for like a whole half a year.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix's J dramas are pretty good. Like, they have a
Hmm.
pretty good connection and collection. I don't want to say connection. They have a pretty good collection of J dramas, K dramas.
Hmm.
Some of the Chinese dramas I enjoy, but then I realized, like, watching K dramas and J dramas, I realized how censored the Chinese dramas are. So I don't really
Hmm.
watch them, because like they censor the ever loving daylights out of stuff in China, which is
Yeah, they're very particular about how you other big products represent Chinese characters as well. I mean, it's why um, I'm trying to think of a particular character, like something like Mei or Chun Li would definitely be on their radar just to make sure they go ahead and follow certain
yeah,
criteria.
guidelines.
yeah,
Yep.
like like I mean the hilarious thing about Chinese cinema, like Chinese like mainline films, is that unless it's a wuxia or a zanzia or a period piece, they never want to get into how fucked up and violent Chinese history is.
Hmm.
Um, just like every other history in any other country, there's dark periods and everything. It's always like you watch a Chinese show and it's like a drama, or even just basic stuff. You watch a drama and like, yeah, Japan has censors. Like if you're watching like the equivalent to rated R in Japan, they will censor like the junk if they show the junk. Like you're not going to see anything in the junk area, but you get a pretty good idea of what's going on. I was like, oh, this is like this person's being viciously murdered or something. China is like, no, we can't show that. I'm like, come on, man. We know what's going on here. Same thing in K dramas where you'll get some violence, but whatever. Anyway, uh, let's get into what our topics are going to be for tonight. So, the Coromon Review Roundup. This is not me giving my review of Coromon. This is me going over some of the scores the game has been getting. Um, Activision Blizzard has been forced to do right. Movies that inverted expectations and side games that were better than the main games in an installment.
Hmm.
Um, so let's get to this first topic: the Coromon Review Roundup. So, uh, for those who might not know, Coromon is a
Creature collection game.
I mean, yeah, on the surface, it looks like a Pokemon clone, but then you play it and you realize it's much better than any Pokemon we've gotten in the last 15 years.
I say creature collection game because if anything, I was trying to evade saying Pokemon because, well, everybody's I know that has already ripped on Pokemon, especially us.
No, I'm gonna be 100%. It is Coromon. Like if you've played Pokemon the last 15 years and you realize this this kind of stinks, or it's very samey and it doesn't take any risks. Coromon feels like someone played like Pokemon, got tired of Pokemon 15 years ago, played the other Pokemon that came out in those intervening 15 years, and said, I can do better," and that's Coromon.
I applaud them. It kind of reminds me of the other indie devs that sort of just take a long lost genre into their own hands, like those people that made the Bug Fable game.
Yeah, it's like intelligent systems and Nintendo won't make a Paper Mario that has RPG like mechanics. They keep on doing weird shit with it. Well, I'll make a Paper Mario game, but it just won't be called Paper Mario, and that's a Bug's Tale. It's I mean the only downside about a Bug's Tale is that once you get once you get past the 2/3 point of the game, like the last act, like towards the very end, the game gets really fucking hard. Um, like the difficulty curve is really steep.
And this is
Um,
Coromon or Bug Fable? Sorry, I didn't
Bug
catch that.
Fable.
Okay, okay, okay.
That's the downside of Bug Fables. That the last part of that game, it gets really really hard.
That's unfortunate because difficulty spike, especially in RPG, that's grounds for a lot of people to just never finish them ever.
Well, I mean, for me, like I enjoyed playing a Bug Fable. Like I really enjoyed that game. And if you just play through the base game, it's not that hard. But then there are these bonus bosses that you can defeat. And like when I played Bug Fable, I played it on the hardest difficulty mode because I'm like, man, I've been playing Paper Mario games for years. I can do this. And I was doing fine until I got to the second or third, no, like the third bonus boss, which kicked my ass. I was like, okay, this is this
Ooh.
is this is insane. Um, and then like it
Reason
got
why I reason why I play normal before I get hard.
well, the normal was too easy for me. Like like Bug Fable is one of those games where if you're someone like okay, if you're someone like me who like I mean, I would say that the last Paper Mario game that actually had the qualities that I consider to be like the core aspect of a Paper Mario game was Thousand Year Door. And I'm one of those people who like every time I play Thousand Year Door now, like I'll go in and I'll get the time to attack down to where I can do the B counter to almost every single attack early on in the game. Like like when you first meet the X Nuts and Grotus, like not Gro not Grotus, that his right hand man. Like I'm doing B counter attacks right off the bat. So like my ability to play Paper Mario games like that and like have I'm an expert at that point. So for like if I'm playing normal mode for Bug Fable, which I tried in the beginning, I'm like this is too easy for me. So I had to put it on higher just so I could have a level of difficulty that felt like and the normal gameplay, like fighting the normal enemies through the normal story, that difficulty was like it was tough but fair. But once you get to the special bosses, that in order for you to unlock like little special titles and stuff like that to give you little bonuses and badges and stuff, the game gets kind of hard. It gets like, okay, I wasn't anticipating that. And the final boss is a jerk because he uses fire attacks, and fire attacks do extra damage to your bugs. So it's just the game gets really hard.
So, you said a review roundup for Coromon. What's a general consensus?
Well, on Metacritic, Coromon has a Metacritic score of 75. It has a
Mm,
Godisa Greek score of 4 out of 5. It has a Open Critic score of 75. So
okay, that's good. It's not bad. I mean, usually a lot of these sounds for these Pokemon, I don't want to call them imitators because that sounds like a negative connotation, but inspired games. Usually they get the recognition for a bit. Oh, it's just like Pokemon, but not Pokemon, and yeah, just that little bit of I want to call it bad publicity. Yeah, it'll help them out in the end. I think it'll be safe. Kind of like when Pocket Mortys came out. And I think that was a paid app.
Um, both a free to play and a paid app.
Ah, okay, okay. Never mind then.
Depends
Man,
on what
I'm confident for
where you're getting
Coromon
it.
though.
yeah, the critic score is 75. The user score is 8.2. So
Mm,
split the difference. It's around an 87.9. It's pretty good.
mm.
But yeah, Coromon is what you get. Like like I said, if you're someone who got tired of the staleness of Pokemon, like you're like I'm tired of the lack of innovation. I'm tired of and when they do innovate, it's to take away features that should be there. Coromon. Coromon's pretty goddamn good.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. What's the studio that makes this? Do you know? Do you happen to know?
Yeah, the developer is Tragsoft. It was published by Freedom Games, and the physical edition was released by Freedom. Is being released by Freedom Family Limited.
Hmm.
And I mean, on the surface, ostensibly, it looks like a Pokemon clone.
Right.
And when you first start playing it, you will think it is a Pokemon clone. But as you get further into Coromon, you realize this is so much better than any Pokemon game we've gotten in the last
Yeah,
15
no, it
years.
has outstanding pixel art, like really good pixel art.
Yeah. And I mean, aside from the art, like the gameplay, like you can do a Nuzlocke challenge if you want to. You can have a Pokemon a randomizer right off the
Hmm.
bat. Like things that Pokemon should have had in their games like
Right.
10 years ago. They have right off the bat in this game. You know, you're not playing some random kid who like turns 10 or 11 and gets kicked out the house and told, "Hey, travel the
Hmm.
world by yourself and capture monsters and make them fight."
No, I hear you. Pokemon really needs the experimentation. Like,
Uh,
yeah, people give praise to Arceus and all that, and I guess it's a step in the right direction. I'm just not quite as impressed because we've had better prior. Like back then, like during the fifth and some of the sixth gen, we would have stuff like the Battle Revolution game, which was just a big spectacle for if you just
Yeah,
wanted to do multiplayer
yeah,
battles, or when they got a little creative with the Ranger Mystery Dungeon games. And
yeah.
Arceus is all right. Like another one. Like recently came out with Pokemon Snap, and I was like, see, now that's just a novelty there. It's not a because even the original Pokemon Snap, I was never particularly a big fan of.
You're just taking pictures of Pokemon. I'm like,
Right.
like the people who have love of Pokemon Snap, I'm like, I don't get it.
I don't.
I don't get it.
Like,
I'm like,
at,
if
at least
anything,
Pikachu had me talk to
I'll
him.
be saying,
eh.
I'll say this right now. I do like Pokemon Snap, but if anything, it's because of the relaxed nature of it, rather than going for pure action.
Yeah, but I mean, if you want to play a relaxed Pokemon game, you do better playing Pokemon Rancher, which is like a beat down, hack down version of Pokemon
Ooh.
of Harvest Moon with Pokemon.
I guess for me, Pokemon Snap feels like it's a really blown up feature rather than something that's substantial enough to be its own foundation for a
Yeah,
game.
Pokemon Snap feels like it should be a side attraction in Pokemon Stadium.
Hmm.
That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like you should. That should not be a $60 game. But that's my own
Hmm.
personal opinion. Um, the only Pokemon spinoff where I'm like, man, this if they had built on this and expanded it out, this could have been a great console version of Pokemon. What
Hmm.
Genius Sonority did with Pokemon
XD Gale of
XD and
Darkness.
Gale of Darkness, yeah.
Oh yeah.
If like the mainline like handheld Pokemon games where okay, you're a kid and you turn 12 or 13 and you go and someone just gives you and it puts you into a dogfighting ring except in a fictional world so it's Pokemon. You know, it's like hey, Pokemon handheld. But then like the console games were like we're doing something different cuz I like the concept of the shadow Pokemon or like if the console games were a complete like Pokemon Detective where you're like confiscating
Hmm.
people's Pokemon who are using them in crimes and shit like that, that would be
Right.
awesome. Nah.
No, I hear you. It sucks because Pokemon is just so dominant on the portable consoles because the console games I found exceptionally amazing for me because yeah Coliseum was I thought it was fine. I thought Exegale Darks was a much stronger game in my opinion. Um, and then you had those great games on the Wii. Like I remember playing Pokemon Rumble with a few friends back then and
Yeah.
Battle Revolution. But yeah, no, that they've always just seemed to be making these games on a dime and just getting back billions.
Yeah, well, I mean, the games. The hilarious thing about the Pokemon games is that the actual games aren't all that profitable. What's profitable for Pokemon is the licensing
The
and the
Oh
other
yeah, the
merchandising.
the
merch.
yeah the other merchandising that's around Pokemon. The games really only make up like I want to say 20-25% of the revenue generated. The rest of it is
Yeah,
like those
because
dolls, the sheets, the
if
underwear.
I'm not mistaken, the Pokemon IP is joint owned by four shareholders. You got Nintendo, the Pokemon Company, Game Freak, and a company called Monsters, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but Nintendo owns like 30% of it.
Okay.
Statistically, they own 30% of the Pokemon Company, which means every time, like you know, Which fundamentally means that when people tell me, "Oh man,
Uh,
uh,
this is where I have to groan because I feel like that 30% is a lot weaker than some people put it out to be.
no, I mean, 30% is enough for them to have a say in things, but not ultimate say. But what I was gonna say is, when people tell me that when people say Nintendo just needs time and it takes a long time, I'm like, look, with all the money, like the Pokemon Company has the most valuable, the most revenue generating IP, entertainment IP in all
Yeah,
of
that's
in all the industry. Okay, like
and I'm going to say
Pokemon
this
makes
right
more
now.
money
Than any other franchise in this known planet,
than
and
any
it
other
makes me wonder
franchise.
who the world is running their speed.
So
And it's
why
not Nintendo.
so
I'm
why the
not gonna say
hell
it now.
can't
It's
Nintendo take
some of the
some of
other
that
franchises.
money and buy some and expand and get some extra hire some extra people to make some more shit? Why does it
Yeah,
take so long to come out with new stuff? I don't get it.
not like they'd be at a
Yeah,
loss. Just go ahead and outsource to one of their couple of acquisitions who aren't doing anything. See what they come up with.
I mean, I
Like
don't know.
imagine, like
yeah. This is the thing I was saying because if anything, if I know Nintendo's not the one that pulls all the strings, but
mhm,
who the heck is on the other two parts of the of the life of the ownership of Pokemon, the IP, makes me wonder who the heck is running that show to run it into the ground like this.
Because that's not the point. The games are just a vehicle to get the IP out
Right.
there so that they can make money off of the merchandising.
they
Yeah.
come up with the Pokemon designs that get turned to cards, toys, and all sorts of other
Yeah,
merchandise that make the real money.
like Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty is huge. Hello Kitty is huge. Hello Kitty doesn't make money off of. Hello Kitty makes its money off of merchandising, not
Mhm,
the toys, not the mangas or anything like that, or the comic strip. It's the merchandising.
mhm.
Um,
That actually
Maybe
gets me to
then.
wondering what happened to Game Freak's attempt at just coming up with another game. They had that game called Town, I think it was.
yeah, where
Um,
the combat mechanics are rock paper scissors.
oh, okay. Because the thing was, I was curious at Game Freak finally just doing something new, but I guess I get to the point that they just make games for kids. That's
Well,
really their good.
they really don't put their best foot forward. Like that game that they released on the Switch, where it was like, yeah, it's a RPG, and then but like you read more about it, it's like, well, the combat system works like this. Like it's a rock paper scissors combat system. I'm like, so this is just like fucking that weird ass game back in the day where your combat system was rock paper scissors, and if you lost, you take massive amounts of damage or beat one shotted.
Mm.
I forgot the name of it. It had a Doraemon. No, not Doraemon.
Oh, Doraemon.
It wasn't Doraemon.
Doraemon JRPG.
GBA Dokapon. That's what called.
Dokapon Kingdom or Dokapon Journey?
Dokapon. All the Dokapon games have combat like that, where in order for you to fight enemies, it's a rock paper scissors system. You don't just level up and equip items. Like items might give you
Um,
benefits, but really, like it's like if you go up against an enemy that has high stats, even if you have really good equipment, and you do the rock paper scissors system, and you like choose the wrong thing, you'll die. One shot. And that's
um,
a terrible gameplay system.
I was about to say that as much as I could, as much as I would want to defend Dokapon Kingdom a little bit because I have played it and it kind of goes into the critical attack versus normal attack versus spell, and it's a more shallow game, but it's a lot ruder than some people give it credit for.
No, I understand, but at the end of the day, Dokapon is just basically rock paper scissors. Now, I have nothing against rock paper scissors within and of itself, but my problem is that if you're doing an RPG, the great thing about an RPG is that, like,
You can choose variants.
well, no, the great thing about an RPG is that you powering up your character, you becoming more powerful, becomes dependent upon leveling up your equipment and your character build. Dokapon adds an element of luck to it. And I don't think that should be in an RPG because, like I said, I remember playing Dokapon on the Game Boy Advance, and having like it's like man, my character, I finally had like great weapons, great shield, great armor, a pet that was helping me out, one-shotted by an enemy, one-shotted and murdered because I chose poorly.
Huh.
And I mean, the game tries to
Yeah.
get around that, but like, well, when you come back from a dungeon, you can put some of your equipment in the in a treasure chest and
Um,
come back out, and it'll still be there. Here's the problem with that
Actually,
thing.
two problems. One, you have to roll in order to get to a certain place, and
Yeah,
two would be the would be how much you leave in there in the first place.
well, I mean, actually, the problem for me was by the time you start getting really good equipment that you would want to, like inevitably, by the time you start getting equipment and treasure chests and enemy drops that you want to take back to town, you're so deep in the dungeon that you're facing
You're kind of at the
enemies
well
that
if
you
you
can't
get
even,
hit.
yeah, you can't get back easily in order to put the stuff away. So it's kind of like it's like what the fuck am I supposed to do now? you know you know
Yeah, and that's before thinking about the competition.
it's the equivalent of of you being on a ship that's been hit, that's going down, and then somehow through some miracle you make it to a desert, to a tropical island, and you pass out, and then you get up, and right there when you're on the island, a piece of the ship flops up, and it's got a life preserver on it. It's like I could have used that an hour ago when I was on the ship. It's like what the fuck? I'm in the shit now.
That's I was going to say that's karma. That's karma. That's karma biting you in the rear end after you get off the ship.
I mean that's basically what Dokapon kind of feels like, and that's kind of like where I
Yeah.
kind of just don't really feel it with
Huh.
those games. But I mean that's my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, Pokemon hasn't really changed. And Coromon, and here's the thing: you can get Coromon for $20 on Steam right now, $20, and you get a game. Yeah, it doesn't have 8 gyms like Pokemon, but you get 6 plus extra content. It's got online multiplayer, so you can play against other people online. It's got it doesn't have EVs or IVs. Instead, it has potential. Um, it doesn't have as many types, but I mean, the cool thing about this game is that they're constantly adding new stuff. Like, I'm not against expansions for Pokemon like games, but this game, they said, hey, for $10, $20, we're going to add like 80% more extra content. We're going to add some new regions, some new mons.
So
I wouldn't be against that.
I was going to say so basically at 1/3 or half of of a normal Pokemon game at the current moment.
You get a much better
Before
game.
DLC, you get DLC and content game.
Yeah, you get online multiplayer. You don't have to pay $20 to $50 for online multiplayer, and it's cross play. So like, if your friend has this game on the PlayStation, you can play against them. So you don't have to pay for that, and it's for $20. An indie company, $20. So there's no excuse. Like everyone's like, no, you got to pay for the online. Fuck you. No, I don't. I don't have to pay a damn thing for anything. If I have an ISP, I'm already paying for internet. Anything else on top of that is just greed.
No, for an indie company, I definitely am not opposed to giving them an extra buck here and there. Like I said, I'm sure once a lot of these AAA's start to crumble, these guys will pick up the slack.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I hope they do make a Coromon sequel. And when they do, I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna be like, yeah, this is great. I like the Coromons. The Coromons is freaking awesome. You can also it has like basically it has a lot of character customization. You can be male or female. You can be black, and the black doesn't look weird. Like I remember how in Pokemon X and
Yeah.
Y, being black made you look,
Chocolate.
not even
No,
chocolate.
you just kind of look like you got splattered in ink.
Well, if you like the darkest you can make your character in X and Y made you look like. I mean, I'm not being discriminatory, but it made you look like maybe one of your grandparents was white.
Nah, I hear you. Japan historically, especially Japanese games, have struggled with more dark-skinned character design. So
Yeah,
I was prepared for it, to be quite honest.
yeah.
Uh,
Either if they
I
make
mean,
you dark skinned, either you look like comic, either you look like either you look comedic like Mr. Popo.
Or they give you white hair, since that's such a oh my goodness, dude! You could take a shot for every dark-skinned character to give white hair. It's practically like a rule now.
Yeah, the only anime I've seen that made the only video game I've seen that had black characters in it and they had a decent skin tone was No More Heroes.
Oh,
um Shinobu.
yeah,
uh
she's great
she has like great skin tone, which
and
tells me they can
great hair.
totally get the right skin tone for black people.
Yeah.
They just don't want to. um
Nah, I hear you, man. I hear you. You're preaching. You're
Jamal's
preaching.
my very, but yeah,
I mean, because like either they're
I
gonna
said that
have people.
because if anything, I wasn't sure of which games would pull that off and which games don't.
Well, if they have black people in a lot of Japanese anime or mangas, that like, and it's colored, the black people look so dark that it's like no black person has skin that dark. Even black people have like really dark
Right.
skin. Don't It's not that dark. Um,
Oftentimes, they make the mistake of making their skin almost grayish. And I was like, that's not a black man. That's a cadaver right there.
that's Joe Fixit. Like, why'd you put the gray Hulk in here? Um,
Oh man,
like or they add bestial characteristics to their facial features to make them look like monkeys.
no,
Like
that's right.
Mr. Popo or General Black in the Red
Uh-huh.
Ribbon Army in Dragon Ball. I mean, it's
Right.
just I don't know, and here's the thing, okay? If this was the 1950s, you could say, okay, well, Japan was kind of not as multicultural back then. We're talking shit that came out in the 2000s that they had difficulty making black people look like black people.
That's true. Like, I play fighting games quite a bit. So Street Fighter Five, they've got a Sambo character in there, and that game came out in 2016. I'm just like, oh Jesus Christ,
Y'all got
guys.
to do better. Yeah, y'all got to do much better. Like Nintendo tried to. Oh no, Mr. Popo, Pokemon, Mr. Popo,
Mm.
and Jinx. Jinx, yeah,
Oh,
she's
oh
got
yeah.
purple. She like here's the
They
thing. It's hilarious that people in Jules and Maya's age group, we remember when Jinx was a black stereotype, and I remember playing
They had to
Pokemon
paint it
Red.
they had to paint it purple in order to evade
hmm
the
Oh, they did that after the
criticism.
fact. Like I remember because I was
Actually,
like,
they
huh.
did they painted her purple in order to evade the criticism.
And it was years before they did it. Like they didn't like Jinx was a jigaboo stereotype
Yeah.
for 2-3 generations.
I
She
thought
they
it was
didn't
Gongoro.
No, it was Jinx. Jinx
I
didn't.
said I said I thought the style was Gongoro. That's what I meant.
Well, okay, that's what they're gonna call it. Genjuro girls. Genjuro
But
girls.
Gonguro girls are based off their perception of another culture. But go on.
Yeah, Ganjuro girls. Ganjuro girls is essentially well, it's Ganjuro girls is a fusion between two distinct cultures. Ganjuro girls is partially their interpretation of the southern of the natives, like the southern the native Japanese people in the southern part of Japan who,
Mm.
I mean, they're basically like the black people of Japan. Like they're very
Yeah.
dark skinned. For Japan, they're dark skinned. I mean, actually, I've seen natives, the native people of that part of Japan. They actually look really good to me. I mean, they're like brown skinned. It's like it's
Very
like brown.
Southeast Asian.
Yeah, well, I mean, they look like Japanese people, but they're just very brown skinned. I mean,
hmm
you like imagine the skin color of native Egyptians,
hmm
and that's basically what the native southern Japanese look like, and
Right.
they tend to have like kind of kinky hair,
Oh.
and I mean they're good looking people, and I mean Japan basically like tried to wipe those people out and take over their culture.
Yeah,
Uh,
the whole Japanese unification thing is like they did the same thing with the people up north, the Ainu.
yeah, it was genocide. It was what it
Yeah.
is what it was. It was genocide. But the other part of Ganjuro culture is just blackface. It's like Japanese women dyeing their skin to look dark skinned and putting on makeup on their lips to make their lips look big and full like black women. Uh, and, like it's Japan. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, look, I understand the need to be fine like black women, But you're essentially
That ain't no shame.
fetishizing. You're fetishizing black people is what you're doing,
Yeah,
which a lot of the world does. A lot of the world fetishizes black people, so I can't.
unfortunately so.
That's just the
It
way it
happened to
is.
Egypt it happened to Egypt in the 50s. Yep. Um, Shoot, was I? But on that note, I will give for the things I have to say about Sun and Moon. I'll give them props for the character design. That's some of Nintendo's best I've ever seen when it comes to
Yeah,
some dark skin rep.
yeah. I mean, they did do better in Sun and Moon in terms of character models, and not making them look weird. I'll give them
Right.
credit for that. Too bad the rest of the game was trash. It's like
Yeah,
one step forward, two steps back.
unfortunately so.
But yeah, but anyway, Coromon is being reviewed well. I will give my review probably next week once I get a little bit more time. Right now,
A favorable.
I've got about 24 hours into the game, and I'm in the fourth region. I haven't completed it yet. I'm in the volcanic region, so I'm like halfway through. I'm like 60% through the game right now.
Game sounds
Pussy.
massive.
I mean, for an indie studio to make something on par
With a
content
AAA?
wise with an early Pokemon game, like a Game Boy Advance generation Pokemon game, is astounding. A third gen, fourth gen Pokemon game. I'm amazed. I'm freaking amazed. But with better animation because the Game Boy Advance couldn't have done the type of 2D animation sprite work that this game's doing. Like your mons are moving. Like my Frogmon, that's a water slash poison type. It's not really called a water slash poison type. It's just a water type, but it also does poison attacks. And I'm getting a lot of Greninja vibes from it, but it's not
I was gonna
Greninja.
ask. I was gonna ask what types are officially, or is it just one type?
I mean, like there's six. Here, let me go to the Coromon wiki because I don't have this off the top of my head. Because, like I said, when I'm playing this game, I revolve to Pokemon typing, even though it's Coromon is its own thing. But a lot of the stuff, um,
Yeah, I get you. It's just that if anything, I I'm playing a different Pokemon like games. Remember?
yeah. So there's normal, electric, ghost, sand, fire, ice, water. Yeah, it's just water. Magic, foul, heavy, air, poison, and cut. And cut does extra damage to electric. Um, poison does extra damage to normal. Air does extra damage to fire. Heavy does extra damage to ice. Foul does extra damage to water. Magic does extra damage to ghost. Water does extra damage to sand and fire. Ice does extra damage to water. Sand does extra damage to electric. Ghost does extra damage to ghost. So they kept that.
Okay.
Electric does extra damage to water, and normal just has no water.
There's
Water
no
takes
benefit.
water has. I mean, normal has no strengths, but also no glaring weaknesses. Except, I mean, they do have a higher defense against ghost type Coromon.
All right, so it feels pretty balanced. That's actually a really hard thing. I up until recently, I had no idea how hard it was to maintain balance, and especially a game with as many mechanics as this. Like just one little oversight just goes ahead and busts it wide open.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing playing this game, I started reverting in some fights. I'm like, yeah, I got my mon that's strong against this. That's like I forget what it's called, like a certain type. It's gonna do good. Like there were like in the game, you have to get these Titan essences, and one of them was against the Magic Titan, or sorry, the Ghost Titan, and I'm basically fighting this boss, and I get its health down to one, and the mofo reincarnates himself and restores 50% of his total health. I'm like, what the fuck, man? I hate that. I hate that in games. But yeah, the game's pretty damn good. Pretty
Good to
damn
hear.
good.
Good to hear.
It's not like I'm pretty sure they will add other types, like maybe do an expansion. And like here's the thing, I'm not against expansions. Everyone's always like, no, don't. Don't do that.
Yeah,
I'm not against expansions.
there's always this attitude that if you have an
Um,
expansion, your game was never complete, which in my opinion is an
I was gonna
unfair assessment
say
sometimes.
Yeah.
it depends on the game. It depends on how the game is built. It for the, to say that because if something is built and it looks like it should have been in there from day one, then yeah, I would agree with those people. But
Mm.
as I said, that depends on the game.
No, I get it. I'm just simply saying that not everything.
Not everything is bad because it
Bombad.
has extra stuff, right?
No, not every expansion is bad. Sometimes I like it. Like I said, there's some games where I'm like, wow, an expansion would really help this game. Like if Xenoblade Chronicles X had an expansion, I
Oh
wouldn't
yeah.
have been upset by it. Like raising
Level cap
the
over
level
60.
cap from 60 to like 100 and giving you more
More
side
side
quests and
quests.
stuff like
Yep.
that. I wouldn't have been against that. It's like, hey, $30 you get extra stuff. I'm cool with that. If Breath of the Wild, instead of having a prequel expansion, had like, okay, this is you after that expansion doing other stuff in that world, I would have been cool with that. Like post game content, cool with that.
Mm.
What bothers me is when something is an expansion and it's like this is cut like Sword and Shield's expansions, where it just felt like cut content that they added after the fact
Mm.
and charge people for it, that's egregious. But if a game already feels like you're getting a complete experience, but you're left wanting more, like man, I wish there was just more here.
That's my take on the Souls games personally, because I found Bloodborne to be pretty perfect. Old Hunter's just icing on top.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, uh, I, uh, I. Anyway, I think we've gone on far enough with Coromon. Anything else you guys want to add about Coromon? That you guys before we move on to the next topic?
No, I think we covered it quite extensively.
I was about to
Next,
say
good.
I'll I'll wait till I'll wait till next week to hear more about what you think.
All right. Uh, Next, Activision Blizzard forced to do right.
Oh,
Forced to do right. They did something good. They actually did something good. The good thing
I
they
was
did
scrolling.
was
I was
the
scrolling because we have to talk about Activision Blizzard, which is kind of a sad thing, but somehow it's a good thing.
they were they well because under threat of unionization,
Unionization.
unionization. Jesus, I'm tired. Actually, I'm not tired because I slept. I went to sleep for some reason around 12:30 today, and I slept till like 5:30. So I don't know why I'm tongue tied. But anyway, Activision Blizzard forced to do right. How were they forced to do right? Well, under threat of unionization. I knew I could say it. It's like I can see it clearly in my head. Tongue gets tied. Weird. Under threat of unionization, what happened is 1,000 QA workers at Ravensoft and across other other studios are getting pay raises and benefits, but only because they were forced under threat of unionization.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, it's not a complete victory since they're just trying to get the heat off of them. I
Yeah.
mean, hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I keep on telling people this. They're like, "Yeah, we won." I'm like, "Look, we haven't won until Bobby Kotick is gone and hopefully doesn't get his big payout." Um, kind of like how,
Hmm.
kind of like how Sherry Redstone did to the guy Les Moonves, who used to be over Paramount or used to be
Yeah.
over CBS. Like, not only did she take his job, but she made sure he didn't get a severance and he was out. Okay.
Ooh.
Uh, that's how you do it. Okay,
Right, right.
that's how you do it. Because Bobby Kotick, with all the foul stuff he's done, he doesn't deserve anything. He deserves nothing.
Hmm. No, no, I'm totally agreement. It's a step forward. I'll say that. But still, like I said, until absolutely annihilated Bobby there, not gonna stop looking yet.
All right, all right. So yeah, Activision Blizzard finally did something right after they were forced to. For the people who are like, yeah, we won. It's like those towns during the civil rights era where it was like, yeah, we finally considered the lunch counter, but only because they were forced to do it. It's like people like anytime you have to force someone to do the right thing, it's not as sweet. The victory isn't as sweet than as if
No, absolutely.
they came to the conclusion themselves through reason and logic. Um, so unfortunately, uh, you know, um, all I can say is, good job doing the right thing. Why didn't you guys do it years ago?
Right.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
What was the holdup? Anyway, so anything you want to add before we move on to the next topic?
No.
Anyone have
Caution,
anything they want to? Okay, all right.
just cautiously optimistic.
Okay, yeah. I hope those people. I hope that this isn't a ploy and those people don't get fired or punished after if the Microsoft acquisition goes through. I don't want those people to be fired. You know, after this, because that's some shit. Because Microsoft isn't exactly a paragon of union expansion themselves, because they had a software developers union, that developer testers union themselves at Microsoft, that formed, and all those people were fired within a few months. So Microsoft isn't everyone. Microsoft's our friend. Microsoft's no one's friend.
I I already hear that coming a mile away.
None of these companies are your friends. Okay, Apple ain't your friend. Nintendo ain't your friend. Sony ain't your friend. Microsoft ain't your friend. Any company that is a for-profit company and you're giving money to them for a good or a service, the only thing they give a fuck about is the money in your hand you're giving to them. They don't give a fuck about you personally. They care about your money. Okay? The only people who should care about you unconditionally are your parents. And some people, depending on your relationship with your parents, it might have uh, conditional attachments to that as well. And maybe your dog. If you have a dog or a cat, they love you unconditionally. They don't care. But let's move on to the next topic: movies that inverted your expectations. Now, before we go, before you guys give your opinions, I just want not your opinions. We started on this discussion. What I mean by movies that inverted expectations, I mean a movie that you watched and you were expecting it to be one thing, and then it completely flipped what was going on, but you like the inversion of what was going on, you liked it. You were like, you know what? I like this. This is fucking amazing.
Let me think. I'm not sure if this quite qualifies, but Tom Cruise did a movie some 10, 11, 12 years ago, called Edge of Tomorrow. I don't know if anyone that rings a
I
bell.
saw it. I saw it when it was still called Just Say
Well,
Die or something like that.
it was actually called Edge of Tomorrow first, and then they renamed it Live Die Repeat.
Yeah, yeah, Live Die Repeat, and like I was like, I like this movie. It didn't do well at
Yeah,
the box office, but I liked it.
unfortunately.
Yeah,
But yeah, because at first I was thinking, goodness, this could not be more typical blockbuster if it
It
tried.
is.
But when I had watched it, it's this really, yeah, I wouldn't quite call
Heavy-handed.
it. No, 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 not quite. It's just a really good Groundhog's Day
yeah,
retelling, but
yeah,
with more action. Because the first act and the last act are really the most heavy action ones, quite honestly. And it's just really cool to see Tom Cruise's character just sort of become exhausted. Like it's pretty much him saying, "Why do we keep doing this nonsense war?" Um, he just becomes disillusioned by it until he finally just gets over it. And this, I mean, it's never explained the whole time loop. If I'm not mistaken, I think there was a queen alien they ended up killing, and it
yeah.
ceased it and all that.
Well, the
But
hilarious thing about the film is that you have Tom Cruise playing against type.
yes,
Because normally Tom Cruise is going to play Tom Cruise in everything he's in. He's going to be the leading man. I mean, that's why Reacher didn't work, because Tom Cruise is like 5'6", 5'7", and he's beating up grown ass dudes. It's like, come
right,
on, man.
Right.
Little ass, sit your little ass down.
Yeah, because at the beginning, he's just some cocky news reporter who has no titles to his name, and they just draft him into the war, and he's so out of his element.
Well, he's in the military. But he's the war correspondent.
Mm,
He's the guy who
He's the
like.
guy telling the news about the war.
Well, no, like during like World War II, he's the guy who would like. He's the propaganda war reporter. It's like, yes, and we're doing the best to take it to the enemy. He's that guy, but they're losing so badly that they're like, look, you got to get your ass to the front lines. He's like, I'm not going. He tries to run away, and they knock him the fuck out and put his ass in there. Like, you get. Do you know how bad a war has to be where they get the war correspondent? He's in the military, but he's the media guy, and they're like, get your ass to the front lines.
Yeah.
I love that. I like any film that has Tom Cruise not playing the typical Tom Cruise role. It's the reason why that Mummy film sucked, because it just devolved into a Tom Cruise vehicle. But what else were you gonna say, Louis?
for me, no, I think we covered it pretty extensively for that film. And if I'm not mistaken, it was based off this manga called All You Need Is Kill. I'm not sure. I'm not very knowledgeable about source material, but for me, yeah, no, that movie I came in just expecting some general romp, killing aliens, but I was pleasantly surprised. I guess if anyone else would like to go, well, I think of something else that subverted my expectations.
All right, Joel.
Sorry if I'm a little off because I was interrupted again. Um, we were talking about how we were once talking about Activision Blizzard.
No, we left that topic. Now we're talking about movies that inverted your expectations, not subverted, because subverted has become has gotten negative connotation because of
Hmm.
Ryan Johnson
Star Wars.
and The Last Jedi. So we're using inverted, where you go into a movie expecting it to be, X, Y, or Z, and then it's like the movie turns turns out to be something completely different, and you're like, I like this.
Hmm.
I like that they completely surprised. It came out of left field, and I like that the fact that this came out of left field and how they pulled it off worked really well.
Um,
Or do you need time to think
this
about it?
is that's the sad thing. I honestly don't have any.
All right, I guess I'll dive into it. I've got two. I'll go with my with the first one first. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this movie. It's called Big Trouble in Little China.
Nope.
I've heard a few things about it, but go on.
It stars Kurt Russell as Jack Burton, who's a truck driver who winds up teaming up with this Asian restaurateur named Wong, who essentially Wong's girlfriend that he grew up loving this girl, and she's coming to the States to get married to him, and she's kidnapped by this reclusive rich guy named David Lopan, who it turns out David Lopan is actually like he's a descended god who's been punished and bound into a mortal body.
What?
Yeah. Now, you're thinking this is going to be your typical action movie rump, but here's where Big Trouble in Little China just inverts everything. Most movies like this would have Jack Burton be the main character, and he's the hero. He's going to get the girl. He's going to save the day. Big Trouble in Little China is great because, yes, it's from the point of view of Jack Burton, but the hilarious thing is that Jack Burton, Big Trouble in Little China, people think that Kurt Russell's character is the main character of that film. He's not.
Right.
He's not the hero. John Carpenter made an entire movie that's told from the viewpoint of the smart ass wisecracking sidekick, and it works.
Oh.
It freaking works. Like he's the smart ass wisecracking sidekick, and like no one gets it. Like the movie did not do well at the box office when it came out, but then again, it was up against some relatively stiff competition at the time. But if you look at it like now, like after the fact, like so many John Carpenter films, it really does invert your expectations of what you were expecting, because you're expecting Kurt Russell to be this leading man and he's going to save the world, and you know,
He ends up doing so much little.
I mean, he does help defeat the final villain, but he's not the hero of the story. He's the sidekick. He's the Chinese guy's sidekick. Like, imagine if they did an Indiana Jones movie where that was all done from the viewpoint of his sidekick.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking that it's mostly the view of the number two, and well, everybody remembers one, but not two.
And the hilarity about Big Trouble in Little China is that Jack Burton, Kurt Russell's character, is completely out of his element. Like, he's a total and complete fucking buffoon. He doesn't realize it. He doesn't realize, like, in his head he's the man, but in actuality he's a fucking loser. and it's hilarious. Like, it's like, wow, you actually made a movie where a character is a total piece of shit, but it works. I like it. I think it's one of the you know,
Appreciated.
it's one of those underappreciated films where people are like, "Oh, I just didn't see that coming." It's like, "Oh, okay."
I kind of guessed that line.
I mean, yet again, because it's John Carpenter. People all like John Carpenter. When he was at the height of his powers, his films were always like 7 to 10 years ahead of the curve.
Oh yeah.
Like, John Carpenter did Halloween, and if he had done like in 70, let's see, when did Halloween come out? Let me look this up. Halloween. Even though I took a lot of film critique classes, I'm not good at dates, so sue me. Halloween.
I hear you. I'm not the guy to bring to movies either. I punch holes.
I forget dates. Like, I know the movies, but if you ask me to remember the dates, I just can't do it. 78. Like, Halloween came out in 78. And Halloween was great for 78, but in a lot of ways it was ahead of its time, because Michael Myers isn't a supernatural force. He's just a dude. He's just a fucking crazy dude.
Just a really, really unstoppable one. Like, dude's made of stronger stuff, but still he's just a guy.
Well, they didn't add that until the later editions and the reboot. But he's just a dude. He's just a fucking crazy guy who wears a mask stabbing people. That's it.
Right.
That's all he does. He's not like Jason Voorhees, who's a zombie, basically.
Yeah, no, like I say, it was a scream of its time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just a dude. He's just a crazy dude who, whenever he wears that mask, he's gonna stab somebody. That's where Rob Zombie messed up with that reboot he did, because he was like,
yeah.
we have
I
to tell
just
why
remembered
he's
how-
traumatic. No, go ahead, Jewel.
I just remembered the one movie that was really weird to me, and in a good way, because it inverted how I feel like some heroes are, in a sense, or rather, some hero comedies go, as far as I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Blank Man.
Oh God. I would agree with you,
Yeah.
except that's a terrible movie.
Yeah, that's the thing. It inverted my expectations in so many different ways that I feel like it needs its own section. Like,
It's
is
the
it satire?
defining
Is it playing it straight?
it's the defining black superhero movie of America. I kid.
Yeah. No, that's Meteor Man. Which is worse, Meteor Man or Blank Man? That's a tough choice.
I've only actually seen Meteor
Yeah.
Man. I have never seen Blank Man actually.
I've seen both, and I can tell you right now, both of them are terrible, but I like Meteor Man better, because at least Meteor Man has a positive message.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the thing. I say Blank Man is the inverse, and I like it, but only because it just makes fun of itself so badly. It makes me wonder who was the creator of it at times.
Damon Wayans.
Yeah, he's very much a fan of those. I mean, if you ask a lot of black film critics, they've got a very scathing
Negative.
view of him. Yep. especially since he was part of that writers guild that made all those parody movies that are popular in the early 2000s. That just it fell out of style like immediately.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Blank Man for me was just like,
How terrible was written.
well, for me the problem with Blank Man is like if you're gonna do a superhero parody, the comedy has to work.
Oh, I thought it
Yeah, that's the
And
thing.
the comedy, like very few
I
jokes in
wasn't
Blank
sure if
Man are
it was
funny.
playing it straight or is it actually trying.
No, it's supposed to be a comedy. It's just not a very good one. That for me, that's
That
the
makes it
problem with
even
Blank Man.
worse.
The comedy is just kind of like,
Yeah, that's the reason why I picked it because I feel like it's hard to tell if it's trying to play itself straight or is it a comedy.
no, it's a
Because
comedy.
now that you had brought that movie up, I just thought of another. This movie isn't as old. It came out like maybe 14, 15 years ago. Super, with the guy from The Office whose name I'm forgetting. I don't know if anyone's
Rainn
seen it.
Wilson,
There you go. So
where
the
he
thing is,
plays like a vigilante, but he's like
yeah,
doing like it starts out. You're like, oh, this is gonna be funny, and he's like horrifically fucking people up with a wrench. It's like, god
yes,
damn.
and he's just venting all of his frustrations with his current relationship. And in such a gruesome and violent way. Like at first I was thinking, hey, you know what, Kick-Ass is out. This is probably just trying to ape on its success. It'll probably just be like a really tongue-in-cheek take on it. It managed to be just as brutal as Kick-Ass and just as gross. But although I think I enjoyed Super a lot more. For one, um, he ends up getting this sidekick girl who's just incredibly
She's worse than he is.
yeah, she's just almost turned on by their brutality, and she rapes him. That is exactly what she does.
He's like, you're insane. Like he's like, I'm fucked up, but you're worse than me.
Yep, and then his wife is taking some time off, and he thinks she's been kidnapped by why am I forgetting his name? The guy from Footloose.
Kevin
Oh,
Bacon.
yeah, Kevin Bacon. He plays. Well, he's not even really the villain. He's just a guy sheltering a woman from a particularly not mentally well person. Um, and he just they end up just having like a big villain showdown at the end. Except the thing is, he's the victim entirely. But yeah, no, that movie blew me away when I first saw it. Just the man sort of handling his own stresses in life in the most bombastic and violent way ever.
Yeah, yeah. Super.
over the top, really.
Yeah, Super is one of those films where you're going into it thinking, okay, so this is a ripoff of Kick Ass. And then you watch it and it's like, no, this is so much darker. In a good way. In a good like I'm one of those like and this is just me as someone who like took a lot of film courses and like I like films that make me feel uncomfortable and like deal with subject
Realism.
matter where it's like you want to turn away, but it's like, no, you gotta look at it. You gotta see it. Um because it's like, is this film trying to say something that needs to be said? Um, so I like stuff like that. I like it's like, man, this made me, this is kind of uncomfortable, but it kind of needs to be said. The only time I don't like it is when it's too gratuitous or it goes too far, because sometimes they go too far. It's like, hey, man, you're messing it up for me.
Too
Um,
forward.
well, no, it's just there's this film called I forget what it's called. It's this French film where this guy finds out his girlfriend's been raped and he basically
Mhm.
goes on a quest for revenge. The problem is that the rape scene in the film is it's like 20 minutes long. It's like a really long rape scene and the film is told in reverse.
Oh, I know exactly
From
what
the
you're talking
end
about
to the
too.
beginning.
It's like,
It
ugh.
starts off in a club. I remember.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a rape scene. Like the rape, it's like normally when films do a rape scene, like typical Hollywood films do a rape scene, it's over and done quick. It's like between 30 seconds to a minute. This rape scene goes on so long, and you're like, man, okay, I hope this dude's done because this is disturbing me now
Mm,
because I know this isn't real. I know this is fake. I know this is
mm.
cinema. I mean, like, okay, let me put it this way. any film that you see on TV that's rated R or even like immature, and you think like even if they have a sex scene or like a rape scene, no one's actually being raped, no one's actually having sex. There's very few films where people are actually having sex in them. They exist. It's just you can't see them. Like they're not. You're not going to be able to go to a mainstream theater and see them. If you want to see these films, you have to either go to a indie films house and watch it, and show your ID and watch it, or go to like a film streaming service and like put in your age and stuff like that and watch those types of films. Because I took film courses, I've seen those films, I've written essays on them and critiqued them. So, and to be honest with you, the sex isn't very good anyway. It just really isn't. It's not very good. It's like, I mean, they had sex. It's not very good.
Right.
It's kind of terrible, actually. But yeah, it's like the scene goes on and on. It's like, please stop. Just
Yeah, I'm especially with a lot of the French films that love those auteur films, especially
yeah,
the more violent ones.
yeah,
Like Serbian film and all that. Yeah, they borderline just go shocking.
yeah. They take it too far.
Yeah.
They take it way too far. That's the issue for me with with a lot of films. It's like this is. I mean, if you had a point, but if you're doing this just for shock value, I got it like 5 minutes ago. You could end it now. I get it. Rape is terrible. Oh no, I got another 6 minutes of this, huh? Oh shit. It's like,
Hmm.
and then there's just certain films I can't watch anymore. Like I can't watch, like I can't watch violence against women like I used to when I was younger in film. Like when I was younger, I could watch stuff like What's Love Got to Do with It, and it was disturbing, but I could get through it. Now I see a man beating up a woman, I'm like, I
You
can't.
choke.
I Well, it's hard for me to watch it. It's hard for me to watch it.
Hmm.
The only film the only film that has violence against women that I can still kind of watch, and it doesn't make me like,
Gag.
well, I don't get like physically ill. It's just like I don't like seeing violence against women on television, or in movies. The only film that I can watch that has violence against women that like doesn't, or violence against women or children that doesn't make me go, okay, this is just disturbing, is I mean, it's disturbing, but I can still watch it. Is The Color Purple.
Okay.
The Color Purple I can still kind of watch, but stuff like Precious,
Mm.
I watched that once. I critiqued it. I never want to see that fucking movie ever again.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I can understand for a lot of people who've especially either witnessed it secondhand or firsthand. Like, that's a big reason why I am particularly a little bit disgusted by more recent Kojima games because it almost seems he relishes in it with just how terrible hand his female characters get.
yeah, yeah, or anybody. I mean, look what happened to poor Raiden.
Mm.
I mean,
Right,
that poor
right,
dude. I mean, they fucked him up.
right.
Um, I mean, in Metal Gear Solid 4, Solid Snake's clone tries to commit suicide at the end of the game.
Mm.
Tries to eat a bullet. I mean, I'm like, God damn, Kojima, shit.
Yeah, he was on. Well, I think he's still actually on some dark stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get it. Your studio dropped you. Why do we have to? Why do you have to be such a downer, dude? Why? Um, but yeah, yeah, I'm not really. Yeah, certain things just don't really do it for me.
Hmm.
Um, but another film that kind of inverted my expectations, where I was like, I was expecting this, something else completely different happened, and I thought it was going to be terrible. So I'm about to say something that's going to blow your guys' mind. I guess this is a little bit unpopular opinion.
Good.
I know there are a lot of Ghostbusters fans who worship the first movie, think it's the best thing in the world, and they shit on the sequel. They're like, the sequel's just the first movie all over again.
Hmm.
Two things. First of all, no, it isn't. The sequel, Ghostbusters 2, is the logical continuation of the first movie. Okay? Because you
Yeah.
know that 1980s New York was going to find someone to sue the asshole out of for the damages to the city. And who
Yeah,
and who are they gonna do it to? The Ghostbusters. Okay.
sadly.
All right. They sue the Ghostbusters so bad that they can't even really do ghost busting anymore. And like in the opening of the second movie, like everyone, like they're a defunct business basically. Okay, they're Ghostbusters in name only. Peter's doing a local TV show. Ray's has Ray occult books. Egon's doing whatever the hell he's doing, and like Ray and Winston on the side do parties.
Okay.
Okay, like that's the these people saved the city from a giant from the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man kaiju,
And they're doing the work of the laundryman.
and now they're doing parties. Fun story. That little kid in Ghostbusters 2 says, "I want He-Man." That's Ivan Reitman's son, Jason Reitman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even back, yeah. So what I'm saying is this: like Ghostbusters 2 is the logical conclusion to that film. You knew Peter and Dana were not going to stay together, okay? Because Peter is too much of an asshole to, especially at that age, he was too much of a fucking asshole to stay in that marriage. I mean, in that relationship, he's too self-centered, okay? But my point, but I will say this much: the first Ghostbusters is a really good film. If you watch it as an adult, there's a lot of adult jokes in that movie.
Oh yeah.
Like as a kid, you don't get the keymaster and doorkeeper joke. You're just like, oh, he just got possessed by that demon dog. As an adult, you're like, oh, keymaster, keep a door key. Oh shit, that he has to fuck her. Okay, yeah, they have to fuck. Okay, I get it. I get it
I
now.
was gonna make the joke. Key plus keyhole.
Yeah.
Joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a,
Well, it works on multiple levels because as your kid, you don't get that joke. As an adult, it's like, oh, it's a sex joke. Or as a kid, you don't get the
Key and keyhole joke.
well, okay, you don't get Ray's wet dream where he dreams that the female ghost gives him a blowjob. Like you don't get it as a kid because you're like, I don't. As a kid, you have no idea of sexuality as a small child. As an adult, it's like, oh, okay, I get that. It's a sex joke. Okay, I get it. Or it's heavily implied that Peter uses his position as a professor to fuck his some of his students, the hot female students.
Enough said.
Yeah, they had to be. I mean, he had. If anyone had to be fired, it was Peter because he was sleeping with his students, the hot female students, the co-eds.
That would easily get you fired.
Yeah, that should get you fired because it's unethical. But
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, the first Ghostbusters, I have to admit, the first Ghostbusters has the more memorable moments. But the second Ghostbusters is a lot more fun. It has better music. It's better paced. It's a shame it didn't make as much money as the first movie, but the fall in box office wasn't enough to where it was like, this movie's untenable. It's just it's just one of those things. But
unfortunately, I would say it would be with how recently they've been trying to make that franchise blow up again. I just think it's sort of trapped in the '80s as just that duology there, because every attempt they tried to bring, because I know they just had a new one maybe a few months ago
Afterlife.
called Afterlife. Yeah, I'm not sure how that one went.
It came out in November. Afterlife is the first 2/3 of the film. It's doing its own thing, and then in the third act, because Sony put the money up to get that movie made, they were like, "Look, we got to sell these fucking toys. You better put all this shit in here that was so that we can sell these toys and make some money off of this shit." The first 2/3 of the film are great. The third act is where they get lazy because they had to wrap shit up.
Right.
But aside from that, I think it's a decent successor to the first two films.
Okay.
It's a decent successor. Like if you can watch it on a streaming service or rent it, it's pretty good. And that's what I'll pull my Forrest Gump, and that's all I'll say about that.
I guess another one. Since I like the Coen Brothers a lot. This one actually took him for a loop. It's a slightly more auteur than most mainstream flicks. The Big Lebowski. Because the thing is, I go for the Coen Brothers for noir. For crime films. Sometimes sorry, for crime films such like that. So I thought The Big Lebowski is maybe just going to be some really 70s hippie take on it, maybe just something with a bit more of a groovy atmosphere to it. And when I'd watch it, it's pretty much a noir film where none of the characters are designed to be noir characters. Like this man's just stumbling across a genre he just has no place to be in.
Yeah, yeah. The Big Lebowski is a noir film where Lebowski, the dude is just like he's an old hippie that like doesn't want to be involved in this shit. Like really, he's just mad that they pissed on his carpet. It's like, come on,
Yeah,
man, why'd you?
and it's even worse because at the end, this crime he's trying to figure out never even occurred.
Well, the crime occurred. It's just not the way that he thought.
Right.
Like
That is expected.
the girl left because she didn't want to be with that guy, and she wanted the extra money, and she did cut off one of her digits to send there, but everything else just kind of it's like his
Yep.
imagination.
Yeah, and he only got wrapped up in it because he shared the same last name as the guy they're trying to ransom.
Yeah, yeah. So are you Lebowski? It's like
Yeah,
what?
no, that and Fargo as a double feature just rip
Yeah.
apart the noir genre as much as you can.
Well, the Coen brothers are great. It's a
Oh
shame that
yeah.
they kind of broke apart. Now they're doing their own thing. But for a long time, almost everything the Coens did, I loved. Like
Hmm.
Hail Caesar. Hail Caesar is great. Hail
Oh.
Caesar. Hail Caesar is like a send up to classic 1940s like big studio Hollywood.
Yeah, when they were really into the swords and sandals.
Yeah, well, the epics and stuff like that. But Josh Brolin plays this character who's like he's the fix-it for the studio, and
Hmm.
there's a scene in that movie where he goes up and he slaps the shit out of George Clooney and tells him to shut up, and it's like it's so great. He just like because George Clooney's a short man, so Josh Brolin's like towering over him, and he grabs like shut up, and he slaps the shit out of him. It's like. And
Right.
it's like oh man, anytime I see a handsome leading man get the shit slapped out of him, I'm happy. Um,
Yeah, no, they always have them play against type in their movies, and I appreciate that.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, the Coens are great. I love them in Raising Arizona.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Raising Arizona is great. Fargo is great. The Big Lebowski, obviously great.
Miller's Crossing, I like. It's a long movie, but I enjoy it.
Miller's Crossing has one of the best death scenes where John Turturro's like, "Look into your
Yeah,
heart."
the second time, and I was like, "You shameless bastard!" Ugh.
He's like, he told your ass to leave town. Why are you still here?
Yeah,
He
no,
let you go. He let you go. Nah, I'm gonna keep on fucking around. You
yeah.
deserve it.
I even like their less crime focused ones like Barton Fink and
Yeah,
Hudsucker Proxy is okay. Like once, like
yeah.
it's not rewatchable for
It's
me.
not a rewatchable film. Hudsucker Proxy is great because Tim Robbins elevates that film, and Paul
Hmm.
Newman as a villain. Seeing Paul
Right.
Newman as a villain is just because Paul Newman for
Yep.
so long played cool characters.
Hmm.
Another
And
movie. No, go ahead.
oh, no, I was gonna say, and that circle joke kills me every time. It's such a dumb joke, but
Yeah.
oh my god, it kills me every time.
Yeah, well, because no one had invented a hula hoop at that point. They didn't get it. They were like, "What? What is it? It's a circle." um, what other? The final film that I say that I watched that inverted my expectations, in a good way. Like
Hmm.
I was pleasantly surprised. Is Star Trek 3. Um,
Which one's that one?
Star Trek
Let's see.
3 is the follow up to Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan. At the end of Wrath of
Okay.
Khan, in order to get the Enterprise out of range of. Because Khan basically says, okay, you've disabled my ship, I've damaged your ship, but I'm going to self destruct my ship so that I'm taking you with me.
Hmm.
And the Enterprise's dilithium crystal generator is out of dilithium crystals. So someone has to go in and put new crystals in. But Scotty can't do it because, like, for some reason, something's going on. So Spock knocks out Bones and Mr. Scott. And he goes in without a suit to put a new dilithium crystal rod into the dilithium crystal uh, chamber. The problem is that it's flooded with radiation, so Spock winds up killing himself. he floods himself with so much radiation, he's not going to make it. And so like Spock, so Kirk is on the bridge. Like he's like, I need warp now, and they finally go to warp, and he's like he thought Scotty was able to pull it off. And when he goes, he hears Mr. Scott say, Captain, you have to come down to the engine room. And he goes to engineering, and he comes out of engineering, and he sees Spock, and Spock's dying. And he's like, Spock, what did you do? Like, what he's like, and Spock tells him, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. And he's like, Spock. He's like, I have been and will always be your friend. And then he basically he stands up straight. He straightens his uniform and he dies. And it's like one of the most Wrath of Khan, I would say, is one of the best Star Trek films ever made. Like, it's really good because it's about that interpersonal relationship between the crew and the characters. Anyway, they launch Spock's coffin onto the planet that was created with the Genesis device, and then they fly off into the sunset. So Wrath of Khan is great because it's the first time where Kirk and his crew lost. Even though they won, they lost because they lost Spock, who's like a major
the
character.
Infinity War and the of its day, I guess.
Basically,
for use of a recent example.
Well, it's like Empire Strikes Back, where even though Luke got away and he faced Vader, he lost. Like, he lost his hand. He found out that his father wasn't killed by Darth Vader. His father is Darth Vader. They lost. Han Solo got taken by Boba Fett. They lost on so many levels. And so that's what Wrath of Khan is. Like, yeah, the heroes get out of it, but they're not unscathed. But Star Trek,
they're barely alive.
Well, I mean, they're alive, but they're fucked. Like, and you didn't know that Spock was going to come back. Like, no one had any idea, but they brought Spock back in Star Trek 3, and the way they do it is freaking amazing. Because they launched him onto the Genesis planet, which the Genesis device is this device that uses an energetic phenomenon in order to accelerate the creation of life and a life-bearing planet in a solar system. So the Genesis planet was the experiment that was used by Khan because he was going to use it as a weapon, but due to some things, it didn't work out. And it's like the Wrath of Khan is a good movie, but for me to try to explain all the nuances that happen into it, I'm not going to do. But anyway, Spock, before he dies, puts his Katra, or part of his genetic memory, into his foil, Bones McCoy. So the opening of Star Trek 3 has Bones losing his mind because he doesn't know that Spock's Katra or memories is inside of his mind. And Spock's body is regenerating on this planet. Like, no one knows this. So right. Kirk's son and Kirk's son's Vulcan, like his friend, they're not lovers, but like his co-scientists, they're on this planet. And you wind up figuring out that Spock's body is back, but because it doesn't have his Katra, he doesn't have any idea who he is. So you have this rapidly aging Spock body. Vulcans live a very long time. And there's a scene in the film where his Spock body is going through Pon farr for the first time, so he has to mate or he'll die. And the female Vulcan makes the sacrifice. She's like, "Well, I'm gonna have to take a hit for the team." Like, as an adult, you're like, okay, that's what's going on. As a kid, I'm like, why are they going in the bushes? I don't get it. He must mate or he'll die. And they did that in a mock time in the original series, where like you find out that Vulcans have to mate every 7 years or they'll die. They must mate every 7 years or they will die. But yeah, Star Trek 3 is a movie that, because a lot of people like to say that Star Trek 3 is inferior to Star Trek 2. And in some ways it is, but it's the logical continuation of the second movie. And, because like the second movie is Spock sacrificing himself in order to save the Enterprise. The third movie is the crew of the Enterprise sacrificing themselves. Literally, the Enterprise is blown up in Star Trek 3, at the end of Star Trek 3, because Kirk tricks the Klingons who killed his son. They killed his son. They like straight up killed his son. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to use the command codes. We're going to beam off of this planet onto the Genesis planet. We're going to use the command codes to remote detonate the Enterprise while the Klingons are on it. And he blows it the fuck up and kills a lot of them. At the end of the film, he kills Cruise, who killed his son, played by Christopher Lloyd. Underrated villain. Like a total villain, but underrated. And they get Spock back. The crew's back together. And then it goes into Star Trek 4, which is also a really good film. Star Trek 4 is the one where they go save the whales. They go back in time and save the whales. Yeah, Star Trek. Yeah, the original series is great. I think the Next Generation films kind of suck. Like, Generations.
Nemesis for one.
Yeah, well, Generations kind of sucked. Like, Generations has some really fun parts, like when Data gets his emotion chip, and he can finally experience emotions. Like, he gets, like, Guinan gives him alcohol, and he's like, he doesn't know how to process it. Like, she's like, here, would you like it? He's like, how is it? I don't know. It's like, do you have words? It's terrible. Yes, it's terrible. This is absolutely the worst thing I've ever had before in my life. It's like, would you like another? Yes. You know, or the Enterprise is about to crash on this planet, and Data's like, oh shit. You know, it's like, and everyone looks at him, and it's like, look, if there ever was a time to say, oh shit, this is the moment. You know, it's like, so that was kind of cool. But then First Contact's really good. Star Trek First Contact is really good. And then they did the movie after that, which was not very good. And then the movie after that was Nemesis. Like, it was diminishing returns. Like, really, I think Next Generation should have only had 2 movies.
Right.
Generations, where the handing of the torch from Next Generation from the original series to the Next Generation, and then First Contact, and then the other 2 movies should have went to Voyager and Deep Space Nine. They should have had movies tying up their loose ends. Like, Voyager should have had, like, okay, here's what happened after they returned to Earth, and Voyager should have been like, here's the return of Benjamin Sisko. Or as I like to call him, Space Jesus. Because that's who Benjamin Sisko is. He's Space Jesus in Deep Space Nine. Space Jesus. Benjamin Sisko's like my favorite Star Trek captain. You know, everyone's like Michael Burnham, Jean-Luc Picard, Archer, Kirk. Huh?
The classics.
Yeah, Kirk, Pike. But, you know, Michael Burnham. But I say to hell with all those. My favorite Starfleet captain is Benjamin Sisko. Or Space Jesus. Space Jesus is awesome. But anyway, I thought we'd get to side games that were better than the main games, but I guess we can move that to Wednesday's cast. Yeah. So with that being said, anything you guys want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
I think we're all right.
Yeah, no, nothing new, to be quite honest.
All right.
In that case, thanks for joining us on the BS Busters of the Week podcast. You can catch us next time or Wednesdays at 7:30.
Yeah, so I do have something to pimp out. Next week I will be doing I'm doing 2 videos. I'm going to be doing a video where it's going to be my video review of Coromon, because by next week I should be I will have beaten it or gotten far enough that I've like touched upon the end game. I'm also doing a side games that were better than the main game video, where I'm picking 5 games where the side game's actually better than the main game.
Nice.
In my opinion. So I'm going to be doing Daikatana, the Game Boy Color version's better than the mainline game. Not a hard jump. GoldenEye. Everyone always talks about James Bond GoldenEye. People forget Nintendo also did a Game Boy James Bond game that's like Legend of Zelda knockoff. I mean, Link's
What?
Awakening knockoff, and it's really good. Um, I'm doing a thing where I'm going to be talking about how, in my opinion, certain Pokemon side games are better than the main games. Um, and I've got 2 other games that are on my list that I have to capture footage for that it's also going to be there. So we're going to be talking about the video. So 2 videos coming up next week, probably Thursday and Friday, where I'm going to be talking about side games that are better than the main games. So with that being said, that's the end of the video. Rate, comment, share, subscribe, and
Hype responsibly, please.